Welcome aboard Fairline's new Phantom 65, a boat designed to be owner-operated. I'm Captain Greg for BoatTest. In addition to being a U.S. Coast Guard licensed captain, I'm also an owner-operator of a boat similar to the Phantom 65. I've been running boats like this for over 20 years, and I want to bring you today a buyer's perspective on the Phantom 65. Before buying a boat of any size, particularly one of this size, caliber, and expense, a buyer should consider the key specifications. The length overall of this yacht is 65 feet 2 inches. The beam is 17 feet 2 inches, and the draft is 5 feet 2 inches. The beam of the Phantom 65 is the widest in its class, increasing both form stability and the amount of capacity and volume inside the hull. Second is the power. Phantom 65 has chosen CAT C32s not only to create the largest horsepower in the class, but also because of the Caterpillar's availability of parts and technicians around the globe. The highest displacement in its class ensures that the Phantom 65 will give the best ride possible in any offshore sea condition. The fuel capacity and water capacity are also leading in the class, showing that Fairline intended this to be a distance cruiser.
Our test location was in the ocean just outside of Fort Lauderdale. Winds were 5 to 10 knots out of the east-southeast. Seas were generally 1 to 2 feet ocean rollers. Here are the key performance numbers for the Fairline Phantom 65. At idle, or 640 RPMs, the yacht did 6.7 knots and consumed 7.5 gallons per hour. The sound was 66.4 decibels on the flybridge and 65.5 decibels at the lower helm. At 1,000 RPMs, the yacht did 12 knots and consumed 25.1 gallons per hour. The sound was 77 decibels on the flybridge and 68.4 decibels at the lower helm. At 1,500 RPMs, the yacht did 20.8 knots and consumed 70.2 gallons per hour. At 2,000 RPMs, the yacht did 29.8 knots and consumed 141.9 gallons per hour. Full throttle was 2,312 RPMs, which yielded a speed of 35.5 knots.
A couple of reactions after running this boat all morning. First is its seaworthiness. The Fairline manufacturing process has created a stiff boat, and I noticed no kinds of creaking when we were hitting the large waves in the inlet. The second thing is the boat has excellent handling. I felt totally comfortable through the full range of maneuvers that we did, and the boat has a tight turning radius at both idle and at planing speed. Another characteristic of the Fairline Phantom 65 is how quiet it is while running at speed. We're doing 30 knots here, which is the cruise speed, and we're only seeing in the cabin 72 decibels. I'm impressed with the lower helm station. First and foremost is this large windshield. It's over 11 feet from side to side and gives you 150 degrees of visibility, including off to starboard very clearly, where boats might be approaching in your danger zone. I also like the fact that it's got 6 feet of headroom and you can completely see out of the windshield without having to lower yourself down. I like the fact that the top of the instrument panel is low enough to not obstruct your vision when you're looking forward, and the convenience of all the controls tightly placed right around the helm. There's 2 steps up to the walkway, which is 1 foot wide and at the handrail 19 inches wide. To the top of the tow rail is 4.5 inches, and it's 25.5 inches to the top of this handrail. There's also an inboard handrail that's super strong and made of stainless steel. I'd like to see this continued even further forward. Coming forward to the bow, we have a forward anchor locker with foot controls. It's got a 100-pound Ultra anchor on 50 meters of stainless steel chain, all supported by a Lumar stop and Lumar winch. And there are 2 sub-lockers that allow you to access the stainless steel chain and the bottom of the winch. All of this is in a recessed anchor locker that's flush with the deck to ensure that no one trips. Coming to the upper helm, we have a captain and a companion seat. We have 2 Garmin 8416s and 1 Garmin 8410. We also have controls for the Humphrey Interceptor, trim tabs, as well as the side power thrusters. And, of course, the controls for the C32 cats. Let's have a look at where performance starts, in the engine room. Access is through this hatch with a strong gas strut. Here we are in the engine room. My first reaction is there's some tight spaces, but also some open spaces. The standard engines on the Phantom 65 are CAT C18s rated at 1150 horsepower each. Our test boat has the optional CAT C32s generating 1,622 horsepower each. Let's work our way around the engine room, starting facing forward from port to starboard. Outboard, we have a Vitron inverter, followed by a master volt charging system. We also have a camera which allows easy vision of what's going on in the engine room from either the helm or the bridge deck. Directly behind me is the main DC panel, followed by the engine controllers for the CAT C32s. You may also notice there's twin Raycor filters on both engines. Engine room headroom ranges between 6 feet 11 inches and 7 feet 5 inches. Down below we have access to measure the oil as well as change all the required filters on both engines. The walkway near the bottom of the engines is 1 foot 8 inches wide. The space between the air filters is only 9 inches, which is part of what makes this engine room tight with the C32s in it. Continuing around on the starboard side is the first of 2 outboard fuel tanks. This boat holds 1,103 US gallons of fuel. As we continue around, you'll see the Caterpillar generator that's on centerline aft of the engines. It's a 22 kilowatt generator. Going into the compartment on the port side of the boat aft of the port engine, you have a secondary breaker box. Behind that is a storage compartment for the batteries, and then the hydraulic system to control the up-down swim platform as well as the tender garage.
Continuing around to port, we find 2 Dometic chillers totaling 95,000 BTUs. I like 2 chillers instead of 1, so if one goes out, you still have cool places to hang out on the boat.
One nice attention to detail that the Fairline engineers have focused on in the engine room is sound dampening. The forward bulkhead is 8 inches thick with extensive sound dampening material built in. The fuel tanks, outboard on both sides, also have sound dampening material, as does the headliner of the engine room.
One thing that makes this engine room tight, of course, is the tender garage. If you want one, any engine room on a yacht this size will be tight. And if you don't want one, take a look at the Fairline Squadron 68, which we've tested. No yacht test would be complete without docking her and discovering how she responds to the controls. I couldn't help but think of how an owner-operator moving up from a smaller boat would find this yacht surprisingly easy to handle. Let me show you what I mean. After coming down the fairway, I stopped her with a little reverse. Then twisted her on her axis using the props only. Now I could have just as easily done this with the bow and stern thrusters, or perhaps a combination of both. Each operator is going to find what works best for them. Once I had her lined up, I gently nudged the gears in and out of reverse going slow. I always say, slow is pro. And use the bow and stern thrusters to push her against the current and light wind to hold my line while backing in. I was able to lay her precisely against the pilings and had the yacht under control at all times. That's my look at the performance characteristics and operational aspects of Fairline's Phantom 65. For Boat Test, I'm Captain Greg, reminding you, life is better on a boat.